Good afternoon. Welcome to the February 5th special called meeting for the City of Henderson City Commission and also the joint meeting for our Henderson Water Utility Board. Can you call a roll, please, for attendance?
Commissioner Hargis. Present. Commissioner Thomas. Commissioner Pruitt.
Here.
Commissioner Witt.
Here.
Mayor State.
Here, and I just wanted to point out one or two things. Commissioner Thomas couldn't be here tonight, but he has been heavily involved in discussions about this issue all week. He and his family are out of town on a planned vacation that was planned a long time ago. And so I don't want anyone to think that he didn't care enough to be here, because he certainly does. And then I'll go over the meeting scope after you all call yours to order.
All right, thank you, Mayor. I'd also like to call a special call meeting at the Henderson Water and Sewer Commission. Roll call.
Commissioner Paul Byrd.
Here.
Commissioner George Jones.
Here.
Commissioner Steve Austin.
Here.
Commissioner Brenna Cottle.
Here.
Commissioner Gary Jennings.
Here.
We are in session.
All right, thank you. And so we have a three-part meeting tonight. I want to explain what we are going to do as part of tonight's meeting. So tonight's meeting is going to be much more about learning, more about where we were, how we got to where we are, and where we are going with this specific issue. I want to thank everybody who has joined us in person, and I want to thank everybody who has joined us watching online. We take this matter extremely seriously. A number of us on the Water Board and on the City Commission have personally been impacted the same as a lot of our citizens have with this particular issue. And so I wanted just to start by saying that. The three parts of this meeting, we are going to start with an executive session. We have a few things that we have to discuss about potential litigation, and those matters are done in private. When we retire for executive session, we're going to try our best to limit it to as short of a time as we can, while also satisfying the content of the discussion that we need to have. And so we will leave the room after a motion for executive session. We'll come back, I would estimate, in about 20 to 30 minutes. But we'll try not to keep the folks who showed up to this meeting tonight waiting any longer than you have to. When we get back, we're going to have a general discussion topic that's going to be led by Bart Bowles. Who's is your title General Manager,
That's
Executive
correct.
Director,
Yes, that's
General
correct.
Manager?
General Manager, yeah.
General Manager of Henderson Water Utility. He's going to talk to us a lot more about this specific issue, where the issues arose, and provide a lot of clarity into what has been going on. And then we are taking public comments tonight as well. And so if you're here and you'd like to comment and you haven't signed up, there should be a sign-up sheet. Is it outside?
It was downstairs.
Oh, it's downstairs on the first floor. Okay. If you missed it and you still would like to speak, we're going to provide you an opportunity to speak. Depending on how many speakers that we have, usually when we have an abundance of speakers, we limit the time to 3 minutes apiece. That is not to limit your voice in any way. That's just to make sure that we can hear everyone who would like to speak as a part of this meeting. Paul, would you like to add anything before we take a motion?
I think we're good. I think we can go.
All right. So with that, I would like to ask Commissioner Pruitt for a motion for executive session.
I move that the commission go into executive session pursuant to KRS 61-810, paragraph 1, subsection, for the purpose of discussion of proposed litigation against the City of Henderson and the Water and Sewer Commission of the City of Henderson, HWU, regarding threats of litigation regarding errant billing issues against the City of Henderson, HWU, and regarding to the potential litigation against the manufacturer, vendors, and or installers of the water meters led to the said errant billing issue.
Can we have a second, please?
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
And the Water Board should do the
Okay.
same.
All right, Gary?
Pursuant to KRS 61.8101B, for the purpose of discussion of proposed litigation against the City of Henderson and the Water Sewer Commission of the City of Henderson, AKA HWU, regarding threats of litigation regarding errant billing issues against the city/HWU, and regarding potential litigation against the manufacturer, vendor, and/or installer of water meters which led to said inherent billing, we recommend going into executive session.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
Second.
Got a second? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
All opposed? We are also in executive session.
All right. We will retire to the second. Thank you so much for your patience. We will now entertain a motion from the City Commission for returning from executive session. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye? We are in open session. Mr. Byrd?
I'll entertain the same motion for our board. Motion. Got a motion? A second? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
We are back in regular session.
Thank you. For this next section, as we described earlier, this next section is going to be a presentation from our General Manager of HWU. And then as he does this presentation, there may be questions from the City Commission or questions from HWU's board that are going to go along with this presentation, because I know in executive session, we had some questions, but we wanted to make sure that we save those for open session. And so if you would, take it away. And then after that will be a part where we will invite people who have shown up if you would like to speak to come up and speak. Okay? Take it away, Bart.
Yep, thank you, Mayor. Our meters have been installed in 4 different phases. We had our first 3 phases were 6,000 meters. This last phase was 3,600 meters. So the first 3 phases were ordered from a different manufacturer, different supplier. It's the same meter, but the territories changed, so we had to order it from a different supplier. And going through that, the first supplier, they programmed the meter and sent them to us. We did not know they did that. So when we bid out the second, the 4th phase, we went in and said, okay, we need these meters. They scanned the barcode, which is on all the meters, to make sure we got the correct meter. And then they come in and said, okay, we need them in gallons, and they sent us 2,500 of those meters. Okay, so we got those in. We bid the installation out, and that was done from June through September of last year. Okay, that was the installation of those meters. We started getting calls. The city does the billing for us, okay? So we started getting calls from the billing department August, September timeframe, and said, hey, you have a few meters that are reading a digit off, which means instead of, like we said, the 4,000, it's saying 400 gallons, okay? And let me just clarify one thing. The meters at your house in your meter box, they read correct every time, okay? These send a signal through this transmitter right here. This plugs in here, and it goes to a repeater on a telephone pole, okay, and sends a signal back to program in the city, and that's how they get the reading, okay? And so the reprogramming, what they do is they hook into these 3 little dots right here, and they say, okay, it needs to be a 7-digit versus a 6-digit read, and that's all they do, okay? And so the program in the city, they see 7 digits at that point. So the meters are good, the meters are correct, okay? And so that was the issue. I think there was I've had questions from, is it the manufacturer, is it this, is it that? But that is the issue at hand. And we'll go through a sample bill here in a minute. So as we found out about this, we didn't know if it was some of the 3,000 older meters, mechanical style meters we had, or if it was some of the newer meters, if it was part of the 6,000 or the 3,600. We started investigating these, and it took a while because you're going through a lot of data, okay? And our group, our IT group, the city's IT group billing, we all chipped in, and we were working on this every day, trying to figure out what's going on. And we did start to figure out sometime October, November, okay, it looks like it's this 4th phase, which is the 3,600 meters. And so they said you need to reprogram these. There's a little device, it takes about a month to get, but our supplier had one, so he came in and started reprogramming the meters that we knew of. We didn't know exactly who they were, how many. We just knew there was 200 here that need to be reprogrammed. So we were still investigating. Okay, so toward November 21st, 22nd, we're like, oh, okay, it looks like it's this last phase of meters, okay? But we had 1,100 meters in inventory from the previous phase, okay? So those were all reading correctly in the system at the city. Okay, so it's actually around 2,500, actually 2,234 meters that are affected by this, okay? And December, right around mid-December, we started looking at it in even more detail, and by the end of December, we knew exactly who it was, who we needed to reprogram, and we had called our supplier and we said, whatever devices you have, we need them, because we're going to start doing all the reprogramming ourselves. I knew we couldn't keep waiting, and so we sent 2 field crews from Henderson Water Utility, and they were reprogramming every day. They started really hard and heavy January 3rd. And so as we went along, once we started, we knew exactly who it was, and we started reprogramming. We said, let's send a letter out to let everybody know. And that's, mid-January, I think is when we did that. And it went out a couple weeks ago. And that's what you guys seen, the ones that got the letter. That's what you've seen. And so we take ownership of this. We're not asking blame on anybody else. This is all Henderson Water Utility, 100%. But that's the timeline of this. And a couple things, I've had a couple questions, as far as, how do you know the meters are accurate? How do you know the meters are calibrated? We get a calibration sheet on every meter that goes through the factory. They're tested, they're calibrated, and these are the sheets. We get every meter that we get, from the manufacturer. And all of our meters are the same brand, same model, same everything. Okay, so I want to go through just kind of a sample bill because I see some of the bills out there. And what this is 6 months of somebody's bill, okay? Yeah, I can't see it either.
There you go.
Okay.
That's good.
Maybe one more.
Okay.
There we go. That's better.
And
Thank you.
we tried to remove the name and some of the address so we would know who this is. So obviously the bills are, it's water, sewer, electric, gas, but you can see the water and sewer charges. That's what we call your volumetric charges. That's what you get charged per 1,000 gallons, okay? So this is, before it was changed, their bill is $48.39 based off what they used, okay? This is in April of '24.
And they were using the 3,000.
3,030.
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
if
yeah.
you see that at the
Three,
top.
yeah, I'm sorry. I got a pointer. Hold on a second. Right there.
Right there.
So in
That was the
April.
usage, okay?
Yeah.
That was before the meter was changed, okay? If you go, I don't know if I can do this. Yeah, you can do that wherever you are, okay. So if you look at the next month, after the meter was changed, it's 560 gallons, okay? And your bill went from 48 to 34, okay? And as you go along, if you go to August 8th, you want to go to August 8th? Okay, thank you. Whoop. Okay.
That's July. That one's July. That's August.
Okay, so we're at 378. Okay, right there. So we're still at 378. Okay, so it's still reading one digit short. That should be 3,780. Okay, the meter's reading correctly. It's just sending the signal back to the billing department one digit short. So that's what you're seeing. Okay, and so we go
Can you
through.
point out the water and sewer charges on this bill?
Yes, sir. $19.17. So you went from $48 to $19. So this person's bill has dropped, dramatically over this time period. And so these are some of the things that the billing department saw this. And I want to get to the final page where the catch-up bill after this one was programmed. Okay, so if you want to go to 12/6 through 1/3, Travis, if you don't mind.
Right there it is.
Yeah, there it is. Okay, so at this point, this is the 21,577, and this is after it's been reprogrammed, and that last digit is included all of a sudden. Okay, so this is what you're seeing, and you're saying
All the bills
all the
added up.
bills added up together. So you were being billed, 300 to 500 gallons a month versus 3,000 to 5,000 gallons per month as a part of this. Okay, I want to go to this last page here, Travis. Okay, so if you look, we'll have to do some explaining here. So if you look, this is your usage column right here. Yeah, right there. That's fine, Travis. This is your usage column, okay? So you can see where it went from 1204, 3007, these are gallons, to 560, 354. You could see where the last digit was cut off, okay? And so, and then all of a sudden it was reprogrammed, and it's adding 1630, 2070. So you just, and when it's reprogrammed, all that usage is going to here, okay? And that's what you're seeing. So what that adds up to is 18,675 gallons that this customer used but was not charged for, okay? And our rate, water and wastewater together, is about $11.02 per 1,000 gallons, okay? And so their catch-up bill is $205. That's in addition to their normal bill. So their normal bill would be about $48, okay? So this bill would be the catch-up would be $205, and their bill for that previous month would be $48. So the catch-up is $205 for this customer, and that's what we're seeing for most customers. The $200 to $250 range. I've seen some $150 to $160 range on catch-up bills. If you see something extravagant like $1,000 or $1,200, that's probably a leak. Okay, and with leaks, we do a one-time deal where we let that go one time. So if it's exorbitant amount of gallons, that's probably a leak. So get with the water utility, and we'll help you out on those. So that's just kind of an explanation of where we started, where we began. We've tried to go as fast as we can and be as transparent as we can. Yes, this is not fun. We've all been upset about this. We're all getting a lot of calls, and we apologize, to the public, because we do. This is our fault. Okay, I'm not trying to get around this. This is our fault, but we're trying to make it right, and that's kind of where we are at this point. Open to any questions, Mayor.
Bart, I've got a question, because if I'm sitting in the audience, I'm wondering, how do you know for sure that every meter was one digit short and that is the fix?
Well, the billing department was able to find everyone, them and our IT manager was able to go through each one and find out what each one was. And they went through spreadsheet after spreadsheet, and that's how they were to determine that. So, yeah.
So they were able to trace it back through the system,
They-
isolate where it wasn't reporting the second
Correct.
digit, the last digit, and everything was consistent across the board? There were
Yeah.
no variances at all?
They
anywhere?
knew the 3,600 meters that were installed during that last phase. They have serial numbers on those. And they took those and they narrowed that down to those meters. And that's how they were able to determine which ones, because they were all reading the one digit short. So.
And you said that was a part of the meters communicating with the billing system, but it
Correct.
wasn't a part of the meters actually reading. So what do you see when you go out and you look at the meters at people's houses?
Yeah, you're seeing like this one right here, it's 9,508. And, that's your meters. If you look in your, we don't necessarily recommend all the time, but if you look in your meter box, your meter is correct. Okay? All the meters are good, they are correct. Okay? This group of 2,234, it was the transmitter, where they were sending the signal back to the software. It was sending one digit off, and that's what it was doing. So, yeah.
Okay, so Bart, I'm correct that if I looked in my meter box, that would say 9,538.
Yeah, that would be correct.
But what was reading back to downtown was like 900 and,
If it was 9,538, it'd be 9,000, or it'd be 953.
okay,
That last digit's cut off.
okay, so it was correct.
If
on
you're
the meter
affected
itself.
by, if you're one of the 2,200, correct, yes.
Out of those 2,200 that you guys looked at,
Mm-hmm.
all of them read low and none read high.
Correct, unless there was a leak. The only ones we saw that run high were a leak, and we've adjusted those.
So everybody's ran low.
Yeah, oh yes, oh yeah.
I had a call from somebody who I directed to you guys to recall.
It was 38,000 gallons.
Yeah, it's 38,000 gallons, and he thought it was as a result of his catch-up bill.
That's,
But it was
it was a big
turned out to be a
leak.
big leak.
And in our software, you can look at somebody's usage every single day to make sure they're using it. If they're using quite a few gallons per day, that's a leak, okay? And we do an adjustment one time for that, so. Yeah.
Mark, you said 2,234 affected. How
Correct.
many residential meters do you all have across the city?
11,500.
So one of the issues is on the billing. Everybody should know, nobody's being threatened with cutting your water off, okay? Nobody, okay? And nobody is expecting you to pay a catch-up bill like that, okay? We're gonna work with everybody, and the idea is, over the course of a year, make the catch-up. And if that puts people in a tough financial spot, call the utility, okay? But one of the problems is the statement that went out, okay, to the public, a lot of misunderstanding, okay? But we're gonna clarify that.
Sure.
The board's absolutely gonna make it available to you, where you say,
Gary,
Hey.
we're getting some text that they can't hear you. If you can speak into the microphone.
I apologize. The board is committed to taking care of everybody, okay? Everybody, and making sure that if you have a catch-up bill, you can pay for it over the course of a year. And if that causes you financial hardship, call the utility, okay? So it's not something where you say, hey, I've got a $200 bill along with all my other utilities. We understand it's a problem. We understand it's a big deal to you. So we're saying, hey, pay for it over a year, split it up into equal payments, and we're working on that. So we're going to make sure that's available to everybody and want you to know that, okay? So that's our biggest issue, I think, in this. It's a clerical mistake. Your meters are reading fine, clerical error that we're going to correct and make it as easy as possible on you to take care of it and catch up. That's our stance on it.
So, go ahead. Sorry.
If I would, I think I know the answer to this. Just to clarify, when you say catch-up bill, is there any interest or penalties associated with that?
Absolutely not. We wouldn't even consider charging people interest for it, okay? I mean, not at all. You're talking to, the people that you're talking to, we're your neighbors. The people that work at the utility are the same ones that go out in the middle of January and there's a leak on Main Street and they dig down 10, 20 feet and it's a 10-foot around circle and they fix your pipes in the middle of winter. And it's the same people that have been giving you really low rates. If you look at Henderson's rates relative to the rest of the state and the rest of the country, we give you great service at low rates, which we're committed to. So I personally apologize for this, but I'll tell you this, we'll make it right. We'll make it right. We'll say, okay, spread it out. We know it's not easy.
Wait,
No.
I have to stop you just for a second. Sorry. Not that I don't want your voice to be heard, but we will have people come up and make comments in just a second where
Yeah.
everybody can hear them at home.
Yeah,
If you're talking from the audience, nobody can hear you, and we have to make sure people hear you. But I'm going to ask you a question for you, and so it's a good segue, okay? So I want to let everybody know what the city commission over the past week or two, the kind of discussions that we've been having, right? We obviously know a lot of people are upset. You were undercharged for water bills for a period of 3 to 6 months, and now all of a sudden you got a catch-up bill there, right? And it feels like you were wrong. And I totally get that. You know, if you have a mistake, the GM on your car, they come and they fix your warranty for free. There's all kinds of analogies we can use for private businesses. Because we're a public business, and I didn't know this honestly until about 3 hours ago. Because we're a public business, there are certain laws that we have to that we are required to operate by. That honestly, through the course of this discussion, I have found out about, because we have inquired from everything to how much of a lick is it going to take for us to just not collect the undercharges because it was our mistake, right? That's what a lot of people want, and that's what and we're no different. We want that for you, because this was a mistake on behalf of HW in the city. Okay, we've also looked at, if there is a rate increase in place, can we delay that for a year? It wouldn't affect, wouldn't help everybody pay back their overages, but it'd be a little bit for everybody, right? And so there's some important legal context that our city attorney needs to provide to you so that you understand where we are at in the process of trying to work for you on this issue. And so it's a good segue to try to bring Dawn Kelsey in. Dawn, would you mind to talk about the things that you have discovered throughout today related to the laws and covenants that we are bound by law to do?
Well, I'll do the first part, then Eric.
Don, before you go, let me say this
Yeah, sure.
real quick. And the mayor, it was really, I double down on what he said. We, at first, looked at this and we said, we want to eat this for the citizens of Henderson. And we thought we had it sealed down, that we was gonna, whatever the cost was, we was gonna make sure nobody had to pay it. But then, this is where Don comes in, our city attorney. Certain things cities can't do because it's not legal. So this is now you can go, Don.
Sure. So, as you all probably know, in 2023, the city took out a water and sewer revenue bond. And when we do bonds, we do an ordinance that contains.
Can you? I don't think your mic's on. Yeah.
This was-
Or at least speak, yeah, I can barely hear you right here.
Maybe our mics aren't on. It's okay. All right. So in 20. Hello? Hi. Hi.
Trying to enter mic or something. I'm so sorry. We want, I want for everybody to be able to hear you, so
Sure.
whatever we gotta do,
Sorry.
get there and.
Testing, test.
Just try to project your voice a little bit too.
Sure. In 2023, the city of Henderson took out, on behalf of the Water and Sewer Commission, we took out water and sewer revenue bonds. They're not general obligation bonds, they are revenue bonds. When we do bonds, we are required to do an ordinance that contains covenants, that says what we will do by law to satisfy these bonds. In those bond covenants, it requires us to collect all the rates and services that we provide to the citizens. We do not have a choice but to do that because we've already told our people who bought the bonds that we will do this. If we do not do that, then we are in violation of our bond covenants, and our bonds can be called. And, you know, I'll have to let Todd talk about what that would mean if people have questions. But we are required by our bond covenants to collect all that we are owed and all of the services that we provided through water and sewer. And Eric, you want to talk about the other part?
Yeah, sure. So
Hey, Eric is HW's attorney.
Eric Chappelle here for Water Utilities. So yeah, in addition to the bond covenant issues, our own city ordinances require it. And that was part of us being able to even obtain the bond to begin with. Under section 2321 of our codes, it says that the water utilized under our system shall be metered, identified, and appropriately charged. And so we're required under our own rules and regulations to do that, and that would, in order to do something different, would require a pretty significant change. In addition to that, we are not controlled by the Public Service Commission, the PSC, because we're a city-owned municipality. However, we tend to look to them for some guidance in how we do things. And the PSC has some rules about this. If you are governed by the PSC, any of those utilities are given up to 2 years to back bill in the event of a shortcoming in billing, which happens very frequently. You can Google it. Kenergy's done it. KU's done it. It happens with some frequency, and so that they allow for that. So using PSC as some guidance there, they permit for it. And similarly, they also allow for the waiver of some usage fees, late fees, things of that nature, like what we're doing here. And by listing those, it expressly doesn't permit us then to waive the actual cost of the bill. So for all of those reasons, it's not something that the city can even entertain, or it has some pretty dire consequences to the water utility in the city. And again, in regard to the bonding and how we proceed moving forward, because billing issues occur here, every city in Kentucky with pretty good frequency. And so, it's a pretty nasty precedent, but it gets also, we're obligated by our own rules, by the state's rules, and by our bond covenants to bill for the water that was used and not billed for at that time.
So a lady in the audience was about to ask this question. And we've had this question pop up a number of times. So the letters went out and said, due to a manufacturer error, blah, 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 right? So why can we not go after the manufacturer to pay for these undercharges if it was due to something that they did? So what is the answer to that question? Because I'm sure that she and other people would like to answer that question.
As we talked about before, error was probably a bad use of terms, but it was just as it came from the manufacturer, okay? And as we talked about earlier, the original supplier of these, they programmed them, and we assumed, we did not know that.
Yeah,
Okay.
if I could, Bart.
Yeah, jump in.
Okay, we purchased 4 batches of electronic meters. And I'm sure the question a lot of you have is, how did this happen? Okay, we've purchased 4 batches of meters. The first 3 batches we produced from vendor A. Okay, and so we get this meter, and we buy them in bulk. We buy them 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 at a time. This is a marvel of engineering. This can read 1 drop a day going through this meter. They are unbelievable, and they are hyper accurate. But we get these meters in the first 3 batches, and we install them. Okay? Now we go to order another 2,500 meters earlier last year. That vendor is no longer able to sell these. Okay? We want to keep them all the same. And they say you have to go through another vendor to get these. So we ordered them from another vendor, the 2,500. Unbeknownst to us, we didn't even know it. The vendor that we bought the first 3 batches from reprogrammed these. They reprogrammed them, and we didn't know it. So when we got the newest batch, the vendor just read the barcode and said, well, that's the meter that you have. That's the meter that you need. So we get the new batches and we install them just like we assumed that they were fine, just like the rest. But unbeknownst to us, nobody knew about it. The first 3 batches had been reprogrammed and the system was set up to work with those. So was it an error? Yes. It was an error by us. We didn't catch that. Okay? It wasn't nefarious. It was just an error. And these are complicated pieces of equipment, and there was nothing sitting here saying this is wrong. Okay? Only when we plugged them into the system and they start reading the information in through the transmitter do we know that there's an issue. And that started showing up in August. The first of these meters were put in June. We first started seeing dribbles of this. To compound it, this last batch we installed, part of them were from this batch and part of them were for the new meters. So it was a mix. So when we went to try to find them, we're like, well, some of the ones we just put in are fine. Some of them are wrong. So we really, that's why it took a couple extra months for us to get our arms around what was going on. And I apologize for that deeply. But the meter, and said it'd be just like your car sending in mileage and dropping the last digit. Okay, when this thing sent in the information, it was just dropping the last number. So you were just losing that last digit, and that's what this is all about. And again, we hate it. And it took longer than we're comfortable with to find it. And we have to tighten up our procedures to keep this from ever happening again. But this meter is one of the most accurate things in the city of Henderson. Remarkable piece of equipment. And they're all certified, so you can have every confidence in the meter. Okay? So it is not the meter's fault. It was our clerical error by not realizing that the first batches had been programmed and the last batch had not. Okay?
So if I'm an affected party and I'm in the audience and I came here and I had hope that we were going to get our bill covered because it was our error, and then now my brain is shifting. No, I'm serious. So it's either you pay me back or somebody's head's got to roll, pretty much, right? Is what a lot of people would want in this case, right? So I want to start by saying, first of all, and I said this earlier too, that our general manager and our water board and our staff at HWU, I know that they, and I know that the city, I know that there have been mistakes that have been made. I know that they've been very big mistakes, very impactful mistakes for a lot of people. But I also know that you guys do more for the community than I think people are aware. The water department specifically is very responsible for working with the city to land Pratt Industries, for example, and bring them to town. There's another business, I don't, for confidentiality's sake, wish to say who they are. They, very real possibility, large employer, we're going to leave the community. And because of the water department's work with them directly, they stayed and are about to expand. And so and anytime we have an economic development project or anything that needs to be done, you guys are on it with us. I appreciate what you've done in the past, and I know that I personally have been on you pretty hard this week. Paul Bird, the chair of the water board, he and I have talked 6 to 8 hours this week, face to face, and having some, at times, kind of heated debates, because I disagree with us not paying this back, but legally, I can't recommend that we do so because it's not legal. That being said, outside of those two things, one of my main concerns, you just brought up, you said we have to tighten up our procedures in order for this not to happen again. We've got how many meters that are left to be installed? And what changes are we going to make to ensure that when those are installed, we do not end up in a room full of angry people again or have bills that, what are we doing?
So there's 3,200 meters left to be installed. They'll be installed sometime late summer. So what we're doing, because of this, I don't ever want this to happen again. This has just been, horrible for everybody in the audience and us as well. So every meter, after it leaves the supplier, when it comes into our warehouse, we're checking every single, not spot checking, we're checking every single meter before it goes out. And then when it's in the field, we're going to spot check again, just to make sure they're correct. So we do not want this ever to happen again. So yes, they will be reprogrammed from our supplier, but when we get them in our warehouse, we're going to check them again. We have the equipment, and we're going to check them again. So we want to make sure this does not happen.
I got one question. On that number that was dropped, this man sitting in the front row, now tell me if I'm wrong, he might have a 6 for his number. Lady back there, it could be a 3. How do you know what it's going to be?
It drops the lowest number.
Yeah,
Okay, it drops the furthest right. If you're looking at a long number, it drops the furthest right number.
How do you know what number it dropped? It's still
The meter
It
always,
just shifted- it shifts at
always
one.
reads correctly. And it's just taking the read from the meter.
It's just
So
what it's sending off to the transmitter. It's truncating the last digit off.
Let me
And one thing to keep in mind.
Let me rephrase this
Yeah.
question, because I know what you're asking.
Yeah.
Is it true that for, like, when we go back and figure this, do we just insert a 0 at the
No,
end?
no.
So-
It's
so
what's
how
on the
do we-
meter.
how do we
It's the
know?
actual usage.
Okay.
Whatever usage it is.
Once it's
that's what they're getting
reprogrammed,
billed.
it's going to send us the real amount. It's going to add that last
That's
digit
what
back
he's
on,
looking for.
Yeah.
and then we go in and add that back and subtract out what was billed from that, subtract out those earlier numbers, and then we have the corrected entry. And that's what's going to be billed for.
And that's what I was trying to get to. Yeah, that's what I was getting to, but some of the bills have already been sent out, some of them haven't, right?
Correct. Yes.
About 10% of the bills have been
Somewhere
sent
in that
out.
range.
About 10% of the bills. For the affected meters. For the affected 2,200 meters, we've sent out 200 and,
188, about 208.
yeah.
Most of you guys, if you follow me, as long as I've been elected, I hadn't been too crazy about our electrical department, Hempel. I thought things went right at Hempel. But this water department has been ace boom coon on it. These guys, they have went and told us, hey, let's don't do a rate increase, we can make it, but they have been there for us. Just like now on the East End, they're putting it all, and some of you guys know all the work that's going on with sewer, water. This group of people I hold in the highest respect. There was a mistake made. They put in corrective actions. And like you said, sometimes people make mistakes. But one thing I wanted to make sure, did the meter ever read anybody higher? And they said no. So what they're saying is truly that you use the water. I'm one of them people too. We use the water, and we're gonna stretch it out as long as we can make it so nobody suffers any kind of cutoffs or anything. And if you're having any trouble paying back, we will work with you because we want to make it right. And we want to make sure that you understand that we're transparent and you can rely on the water meter, whatever you get, you can rely on them that is correct. So that's what we want going forward.
One thing, if I could add, one question would be, why are we using electronic meters? Somebody might say that. Why are we shifting to that? It is saving us millions and millions of dollars. Prior to electronic meters, we would spend $4 a month just reading every single meter. So add $4 to your bill just to have your meter read. These meters are way more accurate than the old mechanical meters that we used to read. So we've been able to shift staff from reading meters to doing other things from these electronic meters. They are absolutely fantastic, and I don't want people to think, oh, those dang electronic. No, they're really, really good and really important to this utility, and it's one of the reasons why we are at the very lowest rate in the state of Kentucky. I mean, almost the very lowest. So it is a big reason why we are.
So I want to segue, because we've been talking a long time. I'm sure we still have more questions and reserve the right to ask them.
Yeah.
But I do want to get to the audience.
Yeah.
Who came out and showed up tonight. If you don't mind, I know this is kind of informal, but by show of hands, how many people would like to come up and speak, just so I know? Okay. So let's not worry about any timers or clocks or anything. Just if you are welcome to come. And on this row, I think we have 3 people on the same row.
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I do have a list of
Okay.
people that signed up.
Thank you.
Suggest you use that.
So what I will do is, to the best of my ability, I'm going to try to pronounce your name. And then if you would like to come speak, please come up. If you're in the room and wish to not speak, please just let me know. And we'll move on to the next person on the list, okay? Joseph Horton? Is that accurate?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Come on up, please.
All right, can everyone hear me all right?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
All right, cool. So first I'd like to begin with trying to use the lowest rates, the fact that we have the lowest rates in the state, this massive oversight, is really irresponsible. You know, it's essentially saying, yeah, we messed up, but we're saving all this money, but you're still kind of screwed. From here on out, I'd like to point out that the sections I'm referencing are from Title 807, Chapter 5, Regulation 6 of the Energy and Environmental Cabinet Public Service Commission. This is questions for the Henderson Water Utility Commission. Are you aware that in Section 17 states that before install, a meter should be in good working order, should be tested and calibrated as such? Okay, if that was properly done, why has it taken 6 months for this error to be caught?
Well, that was my explanation before. It was a complicated matter to identify the meters that were affected.
Okay.
And here's one thing: if your meter was installed in August, we don't maybe read that until September.
Right.
And it might be that half of that month was on your old meter and half of it was on your new meter. So it wouldn't necessarily show up even on your September bill. So our system won't even be flagged until October. So there is a delay, and there's not anything that we can really do about it.
Can I answer your question?
Yeah.
Yes.
Because you asked an important part that wasn't answered, and I think it's worth being answered.
Yeah.
He asked about calibration. So can you answer, this might be a Bart question.
Yeah.
Can you answer, were the meters calibrated before they were installed?
Yeah, from the factory, and these are the sheets right here. I don't know if you guys can see this, but every meter after it leaves the factory, before it leaves the factory, it's tested, it's calibrated, and then we get all the test sheets for every meter we get.
Well,
It's part of what we pay for.
The mechanical parts may have been working, but the code that was written to send it was not. So therefore, the unit itself was not fully calibrated, if that makes sense. In sections 4 and 11, it states that reports are supposed to be done at least quarterly, which it does appear that it was done as such. These are done to draw unusual deviations from standard usage. It appears y'all have done that. My question is that per the KRS, that unusual deviation is listed as plus or minus 2%. These meters are reporting what, 10% difference?
90.
90%.
difference.
90%,
So please
yes.
explain to me how a 90% difference was not caught when code states that it's supposed to be caught around a 2% difference.
Well, it was caught. It was caught, like I said, in August and early September, and it was brought to our attention by the billing department. And as they brought it to our attention, we started investigating it. And that's how we worked through that.
Again, under section 4, line C, it states that if a meter is shown to be in error of plus or minus 2%, that meter is to be removed from service for a total of 6 months undergoing testing off-site on a secured facility. Why is it that when meters were found to be faulty, for
They're not
whatever
faulty.
reason,
They're not faulty.
They're not faulty, yeah.
Okay, but when meters were found to be in error,
We
because they
corrected
were in
it.
error, how come they weren't removed and proper meters to be put in so customers?
The,
can turn-
the meter is not defective in any way, shape, or form. In any way, shape, or form.
The
It- it-
mechanics might not, but that.
It's
unit itself is
what
not
it's
written.
what it's programmed to transmit.
And let me say this, when something's found like that, we send out a
We-
service
we-
request, and our field crews go out and look at that meter, and that's what we see. And the meter read properly, okay?
Well, if the meter read properly, as you said, and I'm not saying that the meter itself isn't reading correctly,
Sure.
but the code that tells that meter, or that meter tells the receivers,
The signal.
hey, this is my usage, isn't right. So it doesn't matter if it's a software issue or hardware issue. There is something wrong with that unit.
It's
So why was that unit left in place during the time of the investigations?
because we were trying to figure out what the issue was.
And we've been reprogramming them. We've been reprogramming them.
No, I understand you're doing that now.
Yeah.
Right. We did it as soon as we
It took a
knew.
while to figure out.
We replaced a number of meters, okay, and we still had the same issue. So it's not like we didn't do anything. When we saw something, early on, we replaced several meters because of that.
One thing, somebody just sent me something online that, how many people think that the meter that they have is overbilling them?
I'm not worried about overbilling at the moment.
Okay,
Overbilling is
okay.
not-
Because it billed at 10% of what it should have
I'm
billed.
aware.
Okay,
I'm able to do basic math. I'm aware.
okay.
So we've got time for one more. You were asking a lot of good questions, so we've got a list of a
Yeah,
lot of
outstanding.
people.
Yeah.
And thank you. So if you could, just ask your best question that you got left on your list, and then we're going to move on to the next person. But I really think your line of questioning is very good.
Thank you. So it's been, I'm gonna go over here. It's been shown both on customer bills and the examples that you've shown that there is just a one lump sum of what's behind of that 6 months charge, correct? That's what's on the bills?
That's
Yes?
correct. Correct.
Fantastic. Now, according to Chapter 11, subsection 5, it makes it very clear that in the event of where an adjustment is made plus or minus 2%, there is supposed to be a very specific way that this is done. Essentially, the customer is supposed to get a letter saying, hey,
Mr. Horton, I'm going to pause you real quick here because you're asking great questions, but again, as I said earlier, we're not subject to the Public Service Commission's rules. So if it's specifically about that statute and how the billing is performed and handled, we don't operate under those rules.
But I think it's still a good question.
No, it's-
If-
I-
if-
I-
if
okay,
we're
if it's
gonna
Oh,
say-
it's totally fair.
If-
Totally
if-
fair. And that's
If we're
why.
going to say that we look to the PSC for guidance, then I think it's a fair question.
and I'm not saying that the billing shouldn't be made up, right? I understand that the past billing is past billing and whatnot, but that's not for me to decide. But I am asking is that why is there a lump sum instead of what the commission requires, which is a very detailed, hey, no, this is the customer, this is the address, this meter, this serial number was misreading at this, with this much correction. Customers are entitled, under Kentucky law, and I understand that the public commission may be a little different in this situation, to receive a very detailed and outlined letter stating the error, how the error occurred, how the error is going to be corrected, and that the meter and the error has been investigated thoroughly. And it has been made very evident by both the examples you have brought up and the example bills I've seen in the audience that that's not happening. My question is why? Unless it falls under, unless it falls under what you were saying.
Well, we did send out a letter to all those affected, so they have been notified. But let me say this, one of the things that we've been talking about as a group is how we're billing these accounts, and we have not done a good job. Blame me, we have not done a good job of what you're talking about, of identifying that. And we're going to let people pay it off over 12 months, or if it's a hardship, we'll extend it out farther than that. We'll go as far as you need, but we have not done a good job on these first 250, which sounds like yours is one of them, of identifying that, but that change is being made very soon.
We've asked them, so we've asked them. So.
If you're referring to the letter, which basically state, yeah, if there's a meter screw up, we're working to correct it, that's not what I'm getting at. You know, Ed is apparently you're not familiar with the statutes that I'm referring to, and I would highly recommend that you review them to figure out the proper format for those letters. Like I say, with the exception that if it is, a little different, under the conditions that you guys are not.
Well, even though it's a little different, we're gonna make sure that that letter goes out to reassure that you can trust what your water meter is reading and what it says. When you get that bill, you won't have to think, oh, is it messed up or not messed up? We're gonna explain, that letter will go out and explain to everybody that's affected, and maybe to everybody that's not affected, because we're changing out all the meters.
Right.
But we're gonna make sure that you get that information. And that lines it out, what they put in place, so it doesn't happen again, and 1, 2, 3, all the way down. We will get you there.
But thank you so much for your question.
Yeah.
I'm going to call on the next person, if that's okay.
Yep. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Appreciate your questions. Appreciate your questions. Harold Wolf.
I was going to maybe use his notes.
And like I said, we don't. I don't have the timer up here, but I'm kind of watching the clock. So yeah, we're good. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, my name's Harold Wolf, and I live at 227 6th Street, just
Thank you.
in between Main and Elm. And I think the main problem was the manager that sent the letter out, the way it was worded, it kind of gets everybody's fever up a little bit. And now you're saying, I know it's our fault, When it hits my pocketbook, it's my fault.
It hasn't hit your pocketbook. It doesn't. You're going to be billed for the same. You got a break at the end of the year, and it's just a catch up. And I hate it. I hate it. It's pie in our.
All you guys do a good job.
It's pie in our face, and it's this side of the room that's the fingers need to be pointed at.
Let's let him ask his question.
Yeah.
But that's the main thing.
Yeah.
I know it's and it sounds like on both parties that the mind's already made up. We're going to be.
We don't have any choice.
And you brought up the issue. Does anybody think they're getting overbilled? For the last 20 years where I live now, my water bill's been running $40 a month, and the sewer $40. And I think it's overbilled.
It's the lowest rate in the state.
And 800 square foot home with one bath.
It's the lowest rate in the state of Kentucky. And we work like dogs trying to keep it there. We go above and beyond. These guys do everything possible to keep it as low as possible. And we constantly compare, we're half of Evansville. We're 40% less than Owensboro. We are dramatically lower than everybody around here, and it's because of these guys. So, and I hate that you have to pay anything for water.
Well, I'm not saying I don't want to pay anything.
But
I argued to the city department about it, and well, you got a major leak. Okay, I called the plumber out. Plumber looks at it. He says, make sure everything, your commode's not running this, and then they look at the water meter. It's not moving. Calls the city. No, it's the plumbers. But anyway, had another plumber out. He calls the city. He said, these people's got to be flushing their commode 40, 50 times a day to use this much water. Well, the city says, you got a leak somewhere. And, and I understand it, but once it seems like, once something gets settled in, you just can't change it. But anyway, I'm good on that. I got a question. The reason you're not wanting to pay us back, someone brought up the part about a bond. Bonds or what?
Bond issue, yeah, it was our city attorney.
The city attorney. If that bond, you didn't want to mention, go back to court in Maine, said it's not their problem. You're not wanting to get money from them, because if you do, is there a law that says
they sent us
you won't get your money?
They sent us exactly what we ordered.
They did?
Yes, that's
They-
correct. Yes.
And to be honest, they did. And it's unfortunate the way that the letter was written.
Yeah, that's right, and that's what kind of throws the red flag up.
Well, and honestly, and then we'll have to move on.
Okay.
Honestly, I had this discussion earlier with Bart, and Bart made a comment to me, and it's not meant to be a smart comment,
Right.
but it was an accurate comment. He said, we're not a PR firm, and we didn't hire one for this. We did our best job, our best to try to write this letter to the public as quickly as possible.
Right.
And it could have been worded better, is what his
Right,
answer was to
right,
me.
right. I mean,
And I think that's an adequate answer to
Very-
everybody.
very true.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
professional.
yeah.
I mean, no,
No.
I don't want you
No.
to retaliate against me.
He's an engineer.
We're not gonna do that.
No, it definitely could have been better.
A quick one, then we gotta move on. Yes,
I
sir.
forgot what I was going to ask, now it kind of threw me off. There was another one I was going to ask, maybe I'll have to get his notes. But that's just it, it's just,
Yeah.
it seems like once you get it said, it's done anyway, so I think I got my answer.
And to your question, I think if you still are having issues, I think the
Yeah,
department
yeah,
will
yeah.
investigate.
After the meeting, can you get with me and give me your
It
address?
won't do no good. I mean, this has been going on, my wife has, I've got 5 plumbers in, I've got someone, and the boy that used to check the water meter, I said, will you do me a favor? Then when they changed the meter out, they double checked and all that, and it's the same, and then when you get down, you can either pay or shut the water off, we don't care what you do, because it's, and now I look at it, I guess maybe.
Well, we care. So
I care.
if you want help with that,
Yeah.
we will get people out to help you with
They
that.
really will do that. Yeah, I mean,
What's
it's worth the chat with them after the meeting's
Well,
over.
What's your address?
But if-
227 6th Street.
If you don't mind, we gotta move on to the next
Yeah,
person.
Okay.
But thank
All right,
you,
thank
all
you,
good
Harold.
questions, thank you.
Yeah.
Help me with this. Caleb? Caleb Miller. He's gone? Okay. Thank you. Jermaine Johnson. My eyes aren't as good as this young man right here. Jermaine Johnson. I'm just going to leave this. You can read me out.
I don't think I can pronounce the rest of those were easy names.
Hey, look at that.
I knew those names, those easy.
Yes, sir.
Hey, how y'all doing?
Can you state your name and address for the record,
Jermaine
please?
Johnson, 1213 Helm Street.
Thank you.
I just got just a couple of questions. I won't be able to respond
Yeah.
to everybody else. One thing that you mentioned earlier was that we're saving millions of dollars by basically these meters reading themselves, but we're cutting jobs.
No, we didn't. We shifted jobs from a mundane task into doing other things. So the staffing level for the city's the same as it's been, if not higher, and for us is the same as it's been, or if not
That's
higher.
correct. Yes.
So we haven't dropped the total number of jobs. We've moved jobs. So instead of somebody coming out and reading a meter, now they're coming out and fixing things. They're putting new pipes in streets and they're fixing leaks. So we just shifted things around.
Okay, well, all right, that's fine. Another question is too, I like this gentleman here, I've had plumbers have to come out because I just had all my lines replaced at my house. I had a house that I had to bring up to code, so I had to have new gas lines put in, new plumbing lines put in, new sewer line, all of that stuff's been put in, brand new. Okay, the plumber to come out, he had to obviously turn the meter off to do his job.
Yeah.
As soon as he opened up a meter, he said, I hate these meters. I mean, and I'm just like, well, what do you mean, dude? He was like, they're hard to read, we can't tell, if somebody's got a leak, we can't look down there like the old school meters that had to have it.
Well, here's the benefit of the new meter.
Okay.
We're going to be able to see it day by day on our end.
And
So we're going to be able to see that. So you're going to be able to see, if you want to know what your usage is, you're going to be able to see it instead of having to sit there and read the meter.
Paul,
So
let me ask you a follow-up question that's on everybody's mind after
Yeah.
you said that.
I was gonna say something,
You're able
too.
to see it day by day, then how come it took 6 months to catch the
Well,
problem?
fair enough.
I don't mean that as
It's coming.
I don't mean that as a pointed question.
Yeah.
I
The
mean that
software's
to
not
be
at
able to
that point
point out that the
It-
software is not fully,
It's not to that point
it's
yet.
not there yet.
let me say this too.
You still have to manually go
do.
in to look at it to get
You
that.
have to request the data.
And let me just say this real quick, for those that have meters and think you have a leak. Like this one right now, it's blinking dry, okay?
Okay.
If you have a leak, it will say FLOW, flow, okay? The old meters used to have a little dial that would turn when you had a leak.
Watch it.
This will say FLOW if you have a leak.
No,
Okay?
I asked you a question, 'cause I'm
Yes,
not-
sir.
Since she said nothing.
Well, I mean,
I'm like,
you can
him,
read
I
it.
don't
You
need to
can-
see
I used to go
I
out
need to read it.
and look at that little dial.
Yeah.
If you got everything cut off, see if it's leaking.
Right.
Now, does
The citizens don't know that, what you just told me. I know I don't know that.
And
Yeah,
apparently
and-
farmers don't know that either.
I think we should put that in some information.
No, I agree. And, yeah.
I know a lot of
Yeah,
people,
I
they
agree.
say, hey, let me check. I'm far here, that little thing's moving.
Yep.
They say, I got a leak, I got everything cut off. Now they can't go out there and look at it because they don't know what that means.
We'll put up,
We're putting a
we'll put
letter
up
out
something on
about that too.
Facebook, on our Facebook site
Yes.
showing how.
We're also
how
going
to
to
check
do a
that.
letter too.
Yeah.
Thank you, but we're eating into your time. You still have time, sir, if you have some more
Yeah, I
questions.
mean, as far as, and
We'll
as
settle
far as,
that.
I know you guys say y'all can't go after anybody as far as, but as far as us as a community, who can we go after?
Go
I mean,
for-
honestly, you guys are doing a good job. Who can we go after?
For,
As far as getting our money back. I
you
mean,
didn't
because
lose
this
any
is a
money.
problem.
You didn't lose any money.
Right, not yet, we haven't lost any money
No,
yet.
no.
And another thing, but let's just skip that one. Here's the thing. Here's what I've always dealt with. I know you say that y'all gonna work with us and blah, 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 blah. But the thing about it is, are you guys gonna relay this to the people in the city, in the city building down there that takes your money? Because here's the thing, when we go down there, sometimes these people they act like we're paying them directly. Like we're paying them. They treat us like crap. You know, as far
I've been in
I know
several.
that has nothing to do with you.
I've been in several
But-
I've been in
Hey.
several meetings today with them, and they are terrific. So
Well, no. Address this part at us.
Yeah, that's us.
Because
that's y'all.
because
Okay,
the
yeah,
billing
that's-
stuff, I
that's
want to
the
hear
thing.
what you have to say,
You know,
and our
as
city
far
manager
as-
does
I'm sure
too.
some of these people can agree.
Yeah.
Everybody don't have a lot of money, you
Yeah.
know, and if you go down there,
Yeah.
say for an example, you go down there and you say, hey, my utility bill's 300 and I've only got 250. They act like, their attitudes act like we're taking money out of their pocket. So basically, I mean, is this gonna be a situation to where, because, you know, I had a situation come up to where I had a health issue, was short on my bill, that lady acted like I was basically getting ready to just take her money. You know, well, you can't pay your bill. I don't wanna hear that.
Yeah.
I do not wanna hear that.
Well, here's what I promise you right now, is I appreciate you pointing that out.
Yes.
I do think that we have a lot of good people, and sometimes they have bad days or this or that. However, that's not an excuse. I'm not writing you off. Our city manager and assistant city manager are here, and that's something that we'll look at. And we'll talk to the department head, we'll talk to the department, and we'll make sure that they remember that we're in the business of customer service down there when we take care of your
Yes,
business.
also make sure that they also know too that they need to be properly dressed. I mean, we're all properly dressed, and when I say that, I've got several people that didn't come. I was down there one day and they were out back there walking around without their shoes on. Is that properly dressed? I mean, it's not.
No, I get
You
you.
know,
And
which-
we'll take a look at that too. And honestly, that's something that Commissioner Pruitt brought up recently, about, not necessarily about the way that they're dressed, but about providing them with city shirts.
Yes.
You know, to make it seem more professional when you're
Yeah.
getting dealt with. And that is something that's on our radar, and we're looking at it.
All right. Well,
All right. Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Johnson.
you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
y'all.
Richard Wilson? We have Richard Wilson? All right. Beverly Whitmore?
No, my question was answered when I interrupted you all talking.
Oh, you,
No,
oh,
you're fine.
did we
How we
get your
doing?
question answered, though?
Yeah, you answered it.
Okay, I know it probably wasn't the answer that you wanted, but I want to make sure that we got your question answered. So we're good? All right. Is this Rankin? Rankin Powell?
The question I had is already been answered.
Oh, thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Can I answer the question I was wanting to ask all of that?
If you want to come up, and ask one question,
Just one
yeah,
question.
you're good.
Yeah, Harold
You're
Wolf
good.
again.
Yeah.
On the calibration,
Yes, sir.
is there one person that does the calibration only, or how's that done through the system?
it comes through the
It
manufacturer.
comes through the manufacturer. It's at the
I thought you said
factory.
You didn't know they recalibrated.
You mean the
No,
program?
we reprogram. We
Oh.
reprogram
No.
how many digits it's sending,
Right.
but the calibration's done.
There's
one
two
time.
field crews that do
So-
that. There's about 4 different people that do
There's
that.
nothing that you do on your end as far as rechecking them of what?
We check it in the system. We look at the
How do you know your system's
the software.
Right.
Because you can look at the system and it's reading correctly. You go check the meter reads like 9508, and you look in the system, if it does not read 9508, there's an issue. Okay, that's how we check
The
it.
system can go wrong to the meter, nothing then, as far as anything.
Nothing I know of.
Well, let me address your question in a different way. I know you didn't ask this, but this is a question that I've been asking and kind of hounding our people on all week. I've been very angry, as a lot of people are. It took 6 months to get this sorted out. We're still sorting it out.
Right.
And doing it it's easy to do Monday morning, quarterback stuff, I mean, there's a lot of things that I would have done differently. Well, you don't really know unless you're in the moment. But the one thing that I want to see us do, and that they have agreed to do, is make better use of the communication between HW and our billing department, so that what are called exception reports are viewed much more frequently. So that if somebody has a deviation on their bill of plus or minus 10% or more than that on what it should be for that
Right.
month, for that year,
Yeah.
that it gives us a flag report and we look at it from a systematic way.
Yeah.
And so that is something that we haven't talked about yet, but is something that is definitely on our radar to do and implement into our future practice.
I guess that's what I was getting at,
Yep.
something
Yep.
will just come
Yes,
up and
sir.
say, hey, there's something wrong.
Good question.
You wrote that up.
Yeah, red
Thank you.
flags.
Those exception reports are how we found all of,
Yeah, that's how we
all of
found it.
these.
All right, thank you.
Let me ask you something.
Thank you,
Say-
thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Harold.
Gentleman here, if he, say you look up and say, wow, he's using 200 more gallons than he, do you notify him?
For 200 gallons?
Or whatever.
If we see something abnormal, like, let's say, 10,000 gallons, then yeah, we're going to call them. We do. Denise typically calls them. Yeah.
I had one today that actually called about the letter, and when I looked into his account, I could see that his consumption was like 3 times.
Okay,
What
you
it
have a
normally
number
is.
that you hit, it has to hit before you notify somebody? Before you notify somebody, do you have a number, like, okay, once it goes past?
You mean a percentage or?
Percentage or whatever?
Flags it.
Yeah, the flags and you call?
Okay, so I don't work in the billing department, okay, so I only look into accounts when I'm requested to look
Well, and
into.
to,
it's
and
a-
to- and to answer your question,
That's the city.
Yeah, we
Yes,
gotta have,
to-
we gotta have. a
It's the
sales
city
sign.
billing department that flags.
yes.
The billing
And so
department does that,
to answer to answer everybody's question in that regard, to answer everyone's question in that regard, that is something that is definitely on our radar, especially as a result of what has happened, and will be implemented into our future practices. However, we need some time to develop the scope of what it's going to look like.
Not only helps you,
And so,
it helps us too.
yeah, it does, and we're going to put that in place. Good point. Greg Billiter? Mr. Billiter, if you could state your name and address for the record, please.
Greg Billiter, 3208 Culpeper Court.
All right, sir, floor is yours.
I got a question, on the bill, does the prior reading and current reading always add up to gallons used on the statement?
It should. Denise, do you know that right off the top of your head? We don't.
It does.
Except for in a month of meter change.
What's that?
In the month of the meter change, the way the system works.
Yeah, yeah.
it
When,
doesn't.
when we switch the meter mid-month,
But every other.
I'll
it's
say
gonna
that.
it's gonna be off.
I've seen that change
Yeah.
on my statements.
Yeah.
I have 2 meters, and I think you only changed the one
Okay.
because of the,
Were they both 3/4 or 3/4 and 1 inch? Was it irrigation meter?
I got irrigation.
Okay, all right.
The second one. I think you only changed the second one.
Okay.
So it's, the defect is only on the new meters placed, not the existing.
Yeah, well, not a defect, the programming. It's only on the new meters, about 2,300 or 2,200.
The new
Yeah,
meter.
yeah, correct.
And the error, is the error the meter readings or the gallons used? Is that
The error is in the gallons used. Okay, so
because of the one?
The last digit's
the
truncated.
last digits, so the signal that's being sent to the program.
Is the company at fault at all that y'all?
No. They supplied exactly what we asked them
So
to
there's no
supply.
insurance that they should be insured for,
Correct.
that they should help pay for this mistake. I have some different results in my gallons used.
Mhm.
Is there a way I can meet with Billings
Sure.
sometime? And
Absolutely.
Yeah, it might be better to meet with us, you think, Denise? To go
Yes.
through that, yeah.
If you,
Denise
Okay,
Jones.
3208 Culpeper?
Yeah.
3208, yes.
I'll
There's
get,
about 6 months, the difference from prior and current had added up wrong,
Okay.
and that was from 2023 and 2024.
She'll take a look at
That's
that.
before the
Back with
new
you.
meter was installed this year.
Okay.
Like 23.
mechanical meter. I
Yeah,
wonder
we'll,
if-
we'll take a look at it. We'll
Yeah.
make it right.
Got time for one more question, sir.
did the city make any money to use this company's meters? Do y'all get any money to use this company?
Oh, no.
It's opposite.
No,
We
so-
spend a lot of money on the
Yeah,
meters.
yeah.
And do they
Yeah, we've spent about
say,
2 million.
"Hey, I know there's bidding wars and all this, but
Yeah.
they say, hey, we'll give you all this.
No.
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 Honestly, I've been in city government now for 8.5 years. I have never run into a situation where anyone has offered me something in exchange for their service. And it's not funny, because a lot of people believe that's what
Oh,
goes
yeah.
on. It's not, yeah.
I've worked utilities here for 40 years now.
Yeah.
Yep.
In the construction part, and things like that happen.
Sure.
Yeah.
Companies want to give you, so that was on social media's questions. And I just-
No. No, we spent a lot of money. No, we haven't taken-
Gotcha. No, it's a fair question.
Okay.
But we've got to move on to the next person.
Thank you
Mr.
for that.
Belcher. We appreciate your question.
Excuse me.
Karen Nunn. Hello, Ms. Nunn. If you could state your name and address for the record,
I'll be
please.
glad to. My name is Karen Nunn, and I live at 3020 Elmwood. Please pay attention to the dates. On January 27th, I received a cutoff notice. And it surprised me because I had paid my utility bill on December 26th. I checked my checkbook. So I called the city and I talked to the lady and I said, I got a cutoff notice. What? She said, well, do you have proof you paid it? I said, yes, ma'am. I have my checkbook right here. She said, well, we've been having some problems. It's okay. So and that got me thinking, well, today's the 27th. I paid it on the 26th and I haven't even got my bill for this month yet. So the next day, I look for the bill. Don't get it. So I called the city again, don't get an answer. So the 29th, a lady calls, 29th, I got my utility bill. Double. It had my December bill on it and my January bill. So I called the lady up at the city again and told her, what happened. She said, well, we don't have a record of it. Said, can you come up here and pay it today? I said, well, yeah, I can do that. So I took the bill up there and I paid December's bill and January's bill. And I said, now if y'all get my check, she said, do you want us to tear it up or what? I said, no, just apply to my balance and let me know. I haven't heard anything about it. But I went back and checked. I normally get my utility bill a couple of weeks before it's due, and I try really hard to pay it the day after I get it. So it is running about a week late being delivered. And if I had waited and not paid it on that day, it would not have got to your office because of the delay in the mail. Mm-hmm. And because of the delay in the bill reaching me, it would have been late getting to your office if I had mailed it the very next day.
Mayor.
And my concern is that it's my understanding, I was told that the bills are being sent from Georgia now. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
So Buzzy.
Can I address it, ma'am?
Buzzy is our city manager, and he would be
Is that
happy to
correct?
address you.
The answer is correct. We have a
Okay,
firm.
so it takes longer for our bills to get to us because they're coming from Georgia. They're also slowed down because the post office is slower than ever,
Yeah.
which means everybody's bill is going to be late getting sent in, even if they send it in the day after they get it.
So I, along with you, I'm interested to see what Buzzy's going to say next, because I think he might provide a little context, and I'm not familiar with this, so I'm
Well,
interested also.
First of all, if we all remember, we had an ice event, and so did Atlanta, Georgia. That, we believe, is one reason why the bills in January were delayed, because Atlanta got probably hit harder than we did. And we know by calling the company, they shut down for at least 2 days that we're aware of. So we believe that happened. Now, the other thing I will say, so the bills get mailed out of Atlanta. Where it goes from there, I'm not sure. But you are right. There were also delays by the Postal Service in getting. Now, what I will say to you, we were aware of that. And I believe our billing person's not here, but she made us aware that they had to take or compensate for the request, much like yours, and they would waive the late fee. Now, here's the one question I have for you. You, in your December bill, you mailed it, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So, and I assume you probably paid by check.
I did.
Okay. So, the question is, you mail it, did it get lost? You don't know. We don't know. But the real story is, you got a late notice, right? So, if you don't have a canceled check, which you didn't, we don't have record of it, it never arrived here. So those type of situations, we take exception, okay? And if you don't get satisfaction in the future with a similar situation, you can always contact the city manager's office, and we will look into that. Because things happen, we know that.
Well, that $35 late fee is still on my bill.
We'll get it taken care of. Did somebody write down her name and address?
Well, you have her name, I have her address.
Oh, right. And so,
Now,
You don't get it taken care of.
well, and let me stop short of saying that we'll get it taken care of. We will look into it with you and figure out what's going on, and then work with you on an appropriate measure, okay?
What I'd like to see is if things are going, the mail's not going to speed up,
Yeah.
you're going to stay with Georgia. I'd like to see the deadline or the due date extended.
And that's actually a really good point, because if now sometimes the storms happen after the
Right.
cycle starts, and so the cycle's already in place with all those due dates printed out and being in the mail, and then it takes another week or two, and so they can't always react to a storm by extending the date in real time. But I will tell you, because we had a number of people who were talking about late notices, they've done a good job of taking care of those late notices as a result of the ice storm. And if yours hasn't, contact them and we'll get you taken care
The
of.
late notice said it would be turned off on the 21st.
Yeah.
It was the 27th when I got the late notice.
Yes, ma'am. So
So that, they did not proceed
did you
to cut
say-
off
Well,
my water, because
thank
it was a
you.
Friday afternoon. I was steering my utilities.
Did you say they threatened to cut your water off?
No, I said I was scared that my utilities would be cut off. It was a Friday afternoon when I got the cutoff notice.
Yes.
And I thought, oh my God, they're gonna turn my,
Well, you know what, you
Utilities off.
sound like the perfect citizen. You know, you're awesome. You're doing everything you're supposed to do, and I'm sorry that happened to you. You know,
Well-
we're having all types of problems with the mail now, aren't we?
yes.
So I'm gonna take your advice on that, how we're gonna do that, and we need to be paying attention to that, of course, with billing, because I'm worried we're gonna have more problems like that
Yes.
going forward.
Well, thank you very
Yeah,
much.
thank you.
I appreciate all of you.
Yeah.
And I
Well,
know
you're
your
awful
job
nice.
is hard.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we-
Put it online.
Thank you.
They can
Yes,
see the
ma'am.
bill online.
Isn't she wonderful?
ma'am,
Ma'am,
Oh,
ma'am,
Miss Nice, can you come back up just for one sec, please?
Go ahead, we're gonna.
Commissioner Pruitt asked a question,
I'm sorry, I missed it.
and I'm gonna defend you, but I bet money, you still use checks.
Oh, yes, I'm an old-fashioned person and I pay things by check.
So he asked a question, can you view your bill online?
No, sir. Can I view it? I can view it now because my daughter showed me how to view it. And I have every water bill I've received since 2019,
Wow.
written down.
Gotcha.
All right.
Well, thank you.
Commissioner Pruitt, I think that answers your
Yeah.
question.
Might need to give her a job.
But I don't pay bills online. I do check or cash.
Well, we've got a couple more people that we've got to get through. I did want to take this, thank you. I did want to take this opportunity while we're talking about checks and billing and all that, to let everybody know that we are looking at trying to make our online procedures more convenient for you, to pay your bills. One of the things our IT department is looking into is adding a pay-by-check online that will not charge a fee for doing so. And that would be in addition to all the other things that you've got. And one thing that our billing department is doing is looking at a lot of the way that we do business and trying to make it easier for you and try to make it so that you don't have to come in for every little thing into office in person. So please be looking out for changes as we go throughout the year. David Petrie? Melissa Roberts? Oh, it is.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hello.
How is everyone?
Good.
First, let me say thank you to the 2 commissioners who took the time to actually respond to my letter of concern. It's kind of disheartening that out of everyone I sent a letter to, that I only had 2 commissioners actually respond to me.
I didn't get a letter. Did you send them to the water board?
Dr. Jennings, I didn't know you were on the water board. I would have sent you out of the office, I promise. I promise if I would have known, I would have sent you a letter.
Okay, well, I wanted to make sure I responded, so. sorry.
Yes, sir. Let me start with the part that probably is the most frustrating. The letters, the social media posts, and the statements made in the Hendersonian. It lacked any sort of empathy for the people of Henderson. I need you to know that the Audubon Area Community Services just put out our needs report. There is a 17.9% poverty rate in Henderson, Kentucky. To reach that poverty rate, y'all, for a household of 4, they only make $27,750 a year. Imagine what an extra charge on their bill is going to be. And then imagine them reading what was written in the statements made by the leaders of HWU in those letters, in those articles in the newspaper. Imagine how they feel about the leaders that we have right now. Do you think that they trust our leaders at HWU? I'm having a hard time with it because I didn't see any empathy. In fact, I saw quite the opposite. I saw someone who was out of touch with the typical everyday resident of Henderson, Kentucky. And that's a problem. Whether or not you all can correct the issue, okay? By the way, you contradicted yourself multiple times in the Hendersonian with that issue. At one point you said they did nothing wrong, and then you turned around in the next statement and said, well, they actually didn't complete the last process. So it was a contradiction. But if we can't fix that, fine. Where's our accountability now? That's where I come to this board. Because there's obviously a fundamental problem in our leadership at HWU. And there's obviously a problem with having no checks and balances within this system. If we are doing something that is a year-long process that could truly affect every single resident of Henderson, Kentucky, where is our checks and balances? Where was our quality control, gentlemen? Where were the people making sure that this was happening? Because what I heard is the ones that ended up seeing it and catching that issue were the ladies reading the bills whenever we were going in to pay for them. It wasn't our administration who said, yes, I'm signing my name off, this is what we want, these are the meters we want, and this is the company we want to use. So my question is directed to the council here, the committee. Where's the accountability going to be? Because you all are the ones that are going to have to hold everyone accountable in HWU who did not have those fundamental processes in place to make sure that this didn't happen. That's my first question.
Right, so I'll respond to this because a lot of the points that you have brought up are things that I've had discussions with my own family members. Yeah. I was also affected by this issue as well. So the delays in the communication really affect people.
It sure does.
They highly do. I'm new to this commission, but I know going forward, we have a lot of internal discussions that we have to have. Are there things that we need to be putting in place to make sure that things like this do not happen? Is that additional manpower? Is that looking at procedures? Those are all things that I'm wanting to dig into. It just so happened that this was sprung up this particular meeting. But those are things that I'm looking forward to in the future, having those hard discussions.
Are those going to be things that you make sure that you effectively communicate to the residents of Henderson? That you are going to put out effectively? Ms. Holly is incredible at writing letters, statements, and I'm sure the city of Henderson would be willing to let you, have Holly assist with that. But there's no effective communication. 6 months, guys, 6 months that went on, and you all knew something was going on, and our commission did not know about that. There's no communication, and that is a fundamental problem.
Yes.
It truly is.
And that's something that I think we have to really look at. How do we do PR? And how can we do PR a little bit more effectively? Holly is amazing at her job. And that's something that we can emulate possibly at the utility. So everything that you're bringing up, I'm hearing it, right? And I think moving forward, we should all be really looking at how we're doing this business, how we're acting as commissioners.
I also think it's incredibly important that on these bills that you all are sending out to recoup those losses.
There's no losses.
Whether y'all say it's a loss or not, I feel that's a little condescending to the
No,
residents.
no, it's not
Whether or
condescending.
not you feel that way, this is how I feel. So, if you're going to do that, it needs to be incredibly detailed, not just water and here's the big O price. You need to actually detail for August, for July, for September, whichever months we were not charged for, it needs to be detailed on there before those are mailed.
That's coming.
Okay.
And to add to what you said about the empathy part, and thank you for bringing it up, I think it's a good time to challenge us at the city and challenge HWU to something to show a little bit of empathy as a result of what has happened.
Absolutely.
As with something specific. I would, if we can't do this tonight, we're not going to take any motion on tonight, but for Tuesday, I'd like to entertain a motion that each body considers a $25,000 donation from the city and from HWU to a water utility assistance fund, not just for people who are impacted by this specific issue, because we can't target like that, but just for the city of Henderson, people who are affected by this issue could take advantage of it. People who are affected by other issues could take advantage of it. And I think we owe it to our citizens to do that. So,
I absolutely agree with you. Thank you, Mayor.
you're welcome.
Those are all of my questions.
Thank you.
Mayor, can I make a statement?
Yes, sir.
I want to address this issue that you brought up, that we're not in charge, or that we're not on the ball, or we're not seeing all this. Let me say this.
If you want to address an issue,
Come on
I
up
feel
here.
as though I need to be up here for you to address it.
I just want to say that this board, we meet once a month, and we are advised on what's going on, and we look at the issues.
Sure.
Now, when this came up at our last meeting, that this issue had come up about the meters being undercharged, I made a strong suggestion, pretty darn strong. I said, I don't want to see another one of these meters go in the ground until it is calibrated or checked before we put it in.
Thank you.
And so believe me, we're on this, but we don't know everything that's going on all the time.
And I understand that, and I think that's the foundation from your leaders here that are not communicating very well with their committee.
I disagree with that.
Well, and that's.
And that's, we
we're
can just
okay
agree to disagree.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's okay for us to agree to disagree.
Well,
Thank you.
thank you. Those are really good questions. Yes, ma'am. Kathy Mannion.
Oh, I'm going to give my time to Joseph.
Joseph, come back up here.
Yield some time to you, Joseph.
All right. I'm sure. Yeah, you had some good questions to get started. Go ahead.
All right. So, to make sure everyone's on track. Again, I will be citing sources from 807, Chapter 5, Regulation 6. I'll also be citing today, or this time rather, Chapter 23, Article 43 of the Henderson, Kentucky Municipal Code. If I speak out of line in reference to this code, please correct me. My first question. is referring back to 17.1. Before installed, meter should be in good working order and adjusted and calibrated as close as possible. That is correct, right? Fantastic. So now my next question leading into that, who is in charge of the overseeing and the actual teaching and the training for that?
Who's in charge of the installs or field crews are?
Who is in charge of overseeing that the meters are calibrated correctly?
Those are calibrated at the factory.
Well,
Yeah.
not because we have.
You talking about reprogramming? Is that what you're talking about? Okay, yeah. Our field crews do that, and our field superintendent does all that. So, and ultimately, I'm responsible for the utility. I mean, look at me. I mean, don't look at them. So I'm responsible for making that happen.
And you were the general manager, correct?
Yes, sir.
Awesome.
Yes, sir.
Fantastic. Now, I understand that the billing is kind of at the mercy of what the meters tell them. And it is my understanding that the head of the billing department is not here tonight.
No, I don't think she's.
That is correct. I can answer a question if you have it. If I can't answer it, I'll get back in touch with you.
No, just to make sure that I was understanding correctly. So, in accordance with Chapter 23, Article 43 of the Henderson, Kentucky Municipal Code, the general manager is appointed by the commission board itself. Correct?
Yeah, the Water and Sewer Commission, correct.
Fantastic. Unfortunately, the state of Kentucky does not have a recall vote. We are one of 12 states that don't. However, tonight I am calling on the commission to discharge the general manager for incompetence and negligence, for failure to complete outlines. I'm sorry, give me just a moment. For failure to complete job outlined in Section 17 and furthermore of Title 807, Chapter 5, Regulation 6. The lack of communication and the lack of planning and lack of respect for the Kentucky State statute is kind of ridiculous. You expect us to follow the laws, we're expected to follow the rules set forth by our employer. The Kentucky State has made it very clear on what the rules and regulations are for your positions, and y'all have violated several that I have here on my paper. So referring back to 807 Chapter 5 Regulation 6.
Okay.
So,
Thank you, sir.
yeah, that was all I had.
Well, thank you so much for coming and speaking with us.
Unless there are
Appreciate
any
it.
questions or anything.
I don't think we're good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we've got, okay, I was going to say Stephen Colbert, but that's not right. Stephen Colbert, isn't it?
Stacy?
Stacy.
Oh, Gilbert. That's-
Oh, Stacy Gilbert, hey, I'm so sorry. Are you good, sir? Thank you, thank you. Your signature looks like Stephen Colbert, but. All right, and then the last one that we have signed up to speak tonight, please pronounce your first name for me.
Siglanda.
What is it?
Siglanda.
Thank you. Siglanda?
Siglanda Williams.
Siglanda Williams, thank you, ma'am. If you could state your name and address for the record.
Siglanda Williams, 914 Ironwood Drive. You do not check your meters. I lost my son in a car accident, and I had him and my grandson living there, and my bill has not changed. I have not received my bill that is due the 11th. Yes, the 11th, and I don't pay my bills late. So y'all need to figure out what's going on here. Because my bill has not changed, and my son has not lived with me in over 2 years. Okay?
Yes,
What's your
ma'am.
address?
Yep.
914 Ironwood Drive. Right across from Mackie. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Ma'am.
Appreciate it.
Miss.
Oh, wait, I think Buzzy wanted to talk to you just for a second, if you want to come back up, if that's okay.
Did you say your bill is due February the 11th?
Yes,
And
sir.
you've not received?
Tuesday.
Your bill has not been received?
No, sir.
I will not ask for your phone call, but we will have someone from billing contact you tomorrow.
I'd appreciate that because they've been out there messing with my meter.
Okay, and you're 941?
914 Ironwood Drive,
Got you.
across from Mackie Drive.
All right.
Thank you for
Thank
bringing
you.
that to our attention, we appreciate it. All right, and just to let everybody know before we adjourn for tonight, Tuesday, at the city commission.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, sorry, yes. Come on up, come on up. Yes, ma'am, if you could state your name and address for the
My
record.
name's Christine. I live at 462 Ray Street, and
Can you speak up so they can hear you?
Yeah, I was a little upset when I got the letter. It was rude and very unthoughtful. We're talking about sending out a thing through Facebook. I've got 6 people on my street that don't have Facebook. One just got out of the nursing home for physical therapy. Letters need to be sent out. Hopefully, they're a little bit more polite, nicer.
Understand.
Did I miss a vote on these new meters? Did the community vote on these new meters?
No, they don't.
Or is
Well,
it something that,
So it's not a matter that the community itself would vote on. However, I'll let the water commission explain.
because I was always brought up by my grandparents, always said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And y'all fix something and it's broke. And you're saying it's not broke, but the meter's reading fine, but there's nobody there to read the meter, but it's not sending the right information, which means it's broke. Technically, it's broke, because somewhere's around, it's something, it's screwed up, it's broke. It's not getting the right information where it needs to go, it's broke. I don't care how you reword that,
We acknowledge
it's
your
broke.
statement. The meters
So-
work fine, the programming is wrong, and we're fixing it.
And it took you over 6 months to let anybody know.
No, it
That's
took
a
us,
little-
September
Can
is
you
when we
use your
started,
mic?
no, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
September is when we started noticing it, and we investigated for several months, okay? We didn't know everybody, June 1st, we didn't know everybody. We were still installing meters June
Well, like
1st.
the gentleman says, it's over 2% and it should have been replaced. Why didn't you take the new meters off, put the old ones back on
So,
to figure out
can-
what was going on with the new meters?
Can I add a little context to that?
Yeah.
And so there's a difference in what he was saying and what has actually occurred. Okay, so what has occurred is a 90% difference in the billing mechanism. But what hasn't occurred is a calibration of the meter that indicated that it was measuring plus or minus 2% off of where it should be measured.
But the
And so
information that
that's-
was being received.
The information that was being received from billing, yes
Broke.
ma'am, was
Correct.
not accurate and is
Yeah.
being fixed. You are correct.
Yeah, it's broke.
Mhm.
It's a communication thing.
There was a breakdown.
Communication, like the
There's-
letter that got
there's-
sent out.
Absolutely.
There's a
yes, ma'am.
breakdown.
Bad communication, so it was a bad communication from the meter. There's a
Correct.
broken connection.
Yeah, it's reading one digit off, correct. You're correct. You're correct.
Connection, it's something wrong.
Yeah, you're correct.
It's a broken connection.
Yes.
So like the gentleman said, it's not reading properly over 2%. Why wasn't the old meter put back on and then figure out what's going on with the new meters instead of waiting 6 months? Saying, oh yeah, by the way, this has been going on for whatever, for so many people.
Let me say this, okay? It's not 6 months, okay? We had a list December 27th. That's when we found out exactly. I didn't say 6 months, okay? I said we started looking into these, we found out from the billing department, in August and September. We had the full list December 27th. That's when we had the full list, okay? We investigated. There's a lot of spreadsheets. Our IT group, the city's IT group, billing group, they were looking at these for 2 or 3 months trying to figure out. And as we figured them out, we were reprogramming, okay? We had the full list December 27th, okay?
But we're just now finding out about it?
We started programming January 3rd,
We
okay?
got letters, everybody got letters.
We
that
typed up the
just
letter
found out
within mid-January, and then we sent them out. Correct.
So you've known for several months, and we're just now finding out about it?
We've known for a few weeks, okay, as far as the full list. Okay, we sent the letters out within a full weeks of knowing the full list. Does that make sense? So we found out the full list December 27th. We typed it up and sent the letters out somewhere around January 20th. So 2 to 3 weeks.
But you've known about it since December?
December 27th.
December 27th.
Mhm. That's when we knew the full list. We knew mid-December it was that fourth phase, okay? But we knew the full list December 27th. So we started replacing the ones.
100 people, 100 people, 100 people, 100 people.
Mhm.
Started doing a test, you found out this 100 people, meters are messed up, how come they didn't get a list, and you found out this 100 people, their meters are messed up or whatever, not reading right, you should have sent out the letter, and this 100 people should have sent out a letter, how come it was just all at one
Understand.
time?
And I think the thought process was we wanted to get everybody that was affected before we sent it out. And that's why we did that.
And that's why we're in this situation. How come you said you got stuff from this vendor and then you got some stuff from another vendor? Why weren't they tested or asked questions? Are they calibrated properly for our system? Why weren't they tested before they were put out?
Well, we received the calibration sheets for those 2,500 we received from the new vendor. And once we received those, we said they're okay.
They were calibrated. They were not programmed the same,
That's what I'm
the
asking.
same
Why
as the
weren't
other
they
ones.
at-
It was a mistake.
So nobody asked
That was
if
There
this
was,
is-
we didn't know.
We didn't know that they
Yeah.
weren't the exact same as the meters that we'd already bought.
Yeah, the
But
previous
you got
vendor,
it from
and
a
the-
different vendor, so you didn't ask if they're ready, set, go into the ground and whatever, and they weren't tested prior from being with a different vendor. You didn't test them prior to put them in the ground.
they were tested at the factory.
They were tested at the factory, but you didn't have them tested to make sure that.
And and when they installed them,
Double-checked
yeah,
from
when
the
they,
factory.
when they installed them, they looked at them and the read was correct, okay? And so when they install them, that's what they do. They install them, they look at the read, make sure it's correct, and that's what they did.
But
Okay.
something broken.
It wasn't broken. It needed to be
There's a
reprogrammed,
connection
yeah.
Broken because it's in the ground reading the water right, so you can open up the thing, look down and says, okay, this is reading properly from what we can gather. But wherever that signal's supposed to give the information, that signal's broken, so it's broken. It's not reading properly.
It's reading
not getting
one
the
digit less,
information
correct,
it needs.
correct,
It's broken.
correct. Yeah.
Broken is broken.
I agree.
You know,
I agree.
there's just not, well, it's just not, no, it's broken.
Mhm.
So it wasn't tested prior before it was put onto somebody's property.
It was visually looked at, okay, and
But it
tested at the
wasn't
factory.
Tested signal-wise, where you're saying it's broken now.
It was,
Can I jump
Sure,
in here,
sure.
please? I don't think there's any other answer than you're exactly right. And what should have happened when the install happened is that connection should have been tested on a sampled amount of meters, and it wasn't done.
Yeah.
And they are making
And those are the
changes.
processes we're going through.
That's what I'm
We're
asking.
changing those
No, no,
processes,
you're-
yes.
Because you're
There's,
getting from a different
there's
vendor.
no other answer
Yeah.
to your question other than that is the root cause of the mistake that was made.
Correct.
And they are working through with the next batch of meters that are going to be installed. We have asked, and they have asked themselves, to make changes to their procedures to make sure this doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
I'm not making excuses for them, but what I think they're trying to say is that when they got the new meters, they made assumptions that it was all correct without checking that link, and that is the problem.
Yeah.
Without checking that link to
Always
billing.
expect the unexpected.
Yes,
That's-
yes,
Agreed.
ma'am. And
Agreed.
that was a ball that was,
Agreed.
that was a ball that was dropped that won't be dropped ever again in the history of
Correct.
the water department, for the future of the water department.
But I do have a concern, since you brought that up. You said you found out in August. First time you found out, you should have got in touch with the city manager and told him so he can get in touch with us. I didn't find out, probably.
We found out, well, let me say this. We found out there was somewhere around 50, and we didn't know if they were new meters, old meters, we didn't know. And we were investigating that with the billing department. And so we really didn't find out.
We didn't know the
Yeah,
scope. We didn't know
scope.
this, how,
It was
because
50
they were
meters.
just coming online. We were just getting them online.
What was the date when you knew that the program meters, this last batch, something's wrong? What was that date?
We knew, as far as November 21st, we had a pretty good idea that it was that last batch. Our IT manager had found that. And that's when he did a deep dive into those 3,600 and found the 23 or 2,234.
What date did you notify city manager Buzzy Newman?
We talked about it in our December board meeting.
December what?
17th. I think we probably had some conversations about it previously, but that's the only from what I
You found
remember.
out you got a major
And-
problem November 21st, and the man that's responsible for running the city doesn't find out until December 17th. So he can tell the people that is responsible for running this city that something's going on. Now, I do have a concern with that.
I do too. Somebody says, hey, it looks like we got a problem and we need to dig into this hot and heavy. We got a
And
problem. It's something
it's-
popping up, we got a problem. And this problem was pushed into a closet and only certain ones knew about this closet until the problem became really big.
It was not
No.
ignored, it was not,
No,
it was not
No, I'm
ignored.
saying
We've had
y'all-
many
It's not,
meetings.
it's
y'all
not
only knew
ignored,
about
but
it. Nobody else did until the end of December, and it's what, over
No,
30 days?
the problem was not ignored, but it wasn't giving the urgency that our commission would like it to get. And in the,
Our pocketbooks are an urgency.
okay. What-
So now we've got anywhere from 300 to plus $1,000
and I absolutely hate it.
that, y'all were keeping hush hush for over 30 days that the city people didn't even know about that we voted for.
The city people did know, billing, we worked with billing, we had multiple meetings with billing department, which is the city, multiple meetings with city IT. We were
I'm
working,
starting to agree with this young man about, somebody, whoever was in charge needs to be replaced. But I got a couple more questions before
Ma'am?
my time runs
Yeah,
out.
got one question. Yes, ma'am.
I just found out that y'all don't even print our bills anymore. It gets in Georgia, so is our bill meter thing getting sent to Georgia? It's not sent here, or?
So that's a question for our city manager.
I mean, if they're having electrical problems down in Georgia, they're expecting another ice storm, snowstorm, tornado storm, knocks out their system, how's that gonna affect us here? What, 2 states away?
So can I explain that to you?
Yeah, because
We
that's.
produce approximately 12,000 utility bills a month. Okay, so that is a massive undertaking. We have outsourced our printing of our utility bills, and what happened, it gets transferred electronically from the city to our vendor in Atlanta. They print the bills off, they also mail the bills from Atlanta, okay? So, let's take, for example, we could do that in Henderson, Kentucky, if we had a vendor that could do it. So, with that being said, we had recently an ice storm where everybody got shut down too. I get your point, but I guess in reality, in how we handle getting our bills mailed out, printed and mailed out, is how it's been probably as long as I've been here, and I've been here 15 plus years. I will say the circumstances that have impacted people, our billing department realizes that and have been working with people. If they receive their bills late, we give a grace period. Okay? We understand what you're saying.
Yeah, that, like I said, that was news to me. I didn't know it got sourced out or anything.
Yeah.
So I was curious on how that worked, because I drove a truck for bulk mail and delivered from the Evansville port, waiting on the trucks to bring it to there for me to pick up and then bring to Henderson. And then I went to 2 other post offices. That was my job. There's been several times over the winter that mail was 4, 5, 6 hours late because of bad weather, so.
Yeah,
that was-
we get it, and let me say this, we know these things happen, and if you, as you stated, you were probably a contract driver for the Postal Service, so I didn't know until last week that the Henderson mail goes to Evansville and it comes back here.
Yeah, they
I don't get
closed this
that.
down back in the 80s where
Yeah.
it doesn't get sorted here anymore.
Yeah.
It's sent to Evansville, and then Evansville sorted mail has been shut down and it's now in Georgia. And there's a lot of, from what I'm hearing from my old coworkers and some other ones that I found online, the person over the Postal Service is shutting down a lot of small postal offices, and so like Basket might be shut down. The one in Hardin, I don't know if there's still one in Hardin anymore, it's been a while, would be shut down. So everybody in Henderson, our little communities that have post office read, would all come to Henderson to have their mail picked up, because a lot of them, their mail don't come to their house, they have to have a post office box. And that's inconvenient, so that's what threw me on, you know, he's coming from Georgia, you know, how's that gonna affect with the bad weather, and they get a lot of bad weather down there, about as bad as we do, so.
Well,
Thank you for your question. I do think that we've learned some things about our utility billing process that are of concern, that should be reviewed as a result of the aftermath of this meeting.
So does it get sent here, or does it get sent to another hub?
Yeah, that was our original question.
Yeah.
so the question is, I understand it,
Yeah, the
Yes,
meter, like, the meter at my house, it sends out an electronical thing.
Signal.
Where does it go? Who
that signal,
receives it?
that's a good question. Can you explain that, Bart? Because ultimately, at the end of the day, it ends up in this building,
Yeah.
in a room somewhere that's got a computer in it.
Sure, yeah, so
But we can see it if we call, but where does it originally go to?
So this transmitter sends it to a repeater, which is on a telephone pole, and it sends it to a software called Temetra, which is what billing reads it off of. It goes into a program called New World, and that's what everything is billed off of.
So it gets sent here?
Correct.
Okay,
Correct,
so
yes,
it's not
correct.
getting sent to Georgia or
No,
ma'am.
Illinois or?
No,
It gets sent here?
Yes,
Okay.
correct.
But electronically, ma'am,
Yeah.
and we
Because I know
bill,
that certain other things that I've ran across to, that when it's electronical like that, you're here, but it gets sent over in like New York or something, then it gets sent back, and then it's just like, so
But-
I just want to make sure it wasn't getting sent like
everything,
lost in transit.
as Bart said, it goes into our New World, which is our software that we use for billing and everything else we do. But when the utility bill information gets sent electronically to our printing company in Atlanta, so it's electronically done.
Okay, yeah, so it gets sent here first and then
Yes.
sent there,
Yes,
and
ma'am.
then they would send us the bill.
Yes, ma'am.
Because I'm with the other lady, I didn't get my bill for this month till last week, or like 4 or 5 days before it's due, it was due on the 4th.
Yeah. And that's something that we should address, that we hear oftentimes, is delays in when you receive your bill and when we expect to collect your.
And this is something that's happened here in the last couple of months, that it's coming later and later.
Yeah.
To the point where my neighbor was asking me, have you gotten your bill yet?
Well, I can tell you that's going to be nipped in the bud, and that it's on our radar, it's been on our radar, and it should be at the forefront of our radar to take care of that issue. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. So we're going to have, so we're,
Has all the meters been replaced?
so come up, I'll tell you what, actually, stay right there, and I'll repeat your question, and then we have to adjourn for the evening. And for everybody's knowledge, if you're here and you want to speak, and you didn't get to speak tonight, we're going to be meeting on Tuesday, 3 o'clock, for our regular city commission meeting. You are more than welcome to come back and talk to us then. In no way are we trying to silence anybody or cut you off or anything. So your question was, has the meters been replaced?
Yes.
Okay, so the meters that are in the field are not being replaced, they're being reprogrammed. Because the programming is what the issue was. The meters themselves are actually working perfectly. But the getting the information from the meters to the billing, that's where the issue has been. They're all currently being reprogrammed. The ones that are going to go out are, in fact, let me stop and let you finish the answer to this question.
Sir, I think what she's asking, has everybody's meter have been replaced?
Oh,
yet?
no, the answer to your question is no, but.
There's, well, okay, there's two different phases. There's still 30.
I got a letter, so I know I'm affected.
Yes, ma'am.
That's
Okay.
why I want to
Yeah.
know,
There's-
has it been corrected?
There's 1,600 that need to be programmed. We plan on being done within the next 4 weeks, 4.5 weeks with those. There's another 3,200 that need to be installed later this summer, but those are new meters. That's a different.
And those won't have this issue.
Those will not have those issues. I
And
assure
those,
that.
and those are being 100% checked before they are installed, correct?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yep.
Correct.
Does that answer your question?
No.
Yes, ma'am.
One observation. The letters you mailed out 2 weeks ago, I got mine yesterday.
Wow.
Wow.
Mine, they-
Yeah.
So as Henderson to Henderson, I got it yesterday.
That's a long
Thank
time.
We need to go to the post office meeting.
Okay, so thank everybody for
Hand
coming
delivery.
tonight. We are going to adjourn for the evening. We really do appreciate hearing from everybody. You know, the things that you are bringing up are things that we've either needed to address or that we're going to address. But for the purposes of this evening, I will entertain a motion to adjourn from our city commission. Do we have a second? All in favor, aye?
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn as well. Got a motion from Gary,
Second.
a second from Brenna. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
All right, we are adjourned. Thank you.